I need to tell you something that might make you angry. If you're taking a statin medication right now, there's a 70% chance you're doing it completely wrong. And that mistake, that simple error in how you're taking one of the most prescribed drugs in the world, could be the difference between a healthy heart and a catastrophic cardiac event. I'm Dr. Hannah, and after performing over 3,000 heart surgeries in my career, I've seen what happens when statins are taken incorrectly. I've watched brilliant executives, successful entrepreneurs, people at the peak of their professional lives suffer heart attacks, not because statins don't work, but because nobody taught them the right way to use them. These aren't rare cases. This is an epidemic hiding in plain sight. Your cardiologist prescribed the medication, you picked it up from the pharmacy, you take it every day like clockwork, and you assume you're protected. But here's the brutal truth. Taking a statin pill is not enough. The timing matters. The dosage matters. What you eat with it matters. Whether you exercise matters. And most critically, what other supplements and medications you're combining with it could be completely neutralizing its protective effects or worse, creating new dangers you never saw coming. What I'm about to share contradicts the standard instructions you received. Most doctors don't have time to explain this. They write the prescription, tell you to take it at bedtime, and send you on your way. The pharmaceutical companies certainly aren't going to educate you because keeping you in the dark keeps you dependent on their system. But I've dedicated my career to this, and I refuse to watch one more preventable tragedy unfold in my operating room. By the end of this video, you'll know the 5 critical mistakes people make with statins, and more importantly, you'll understand the exact protocol that actually protects your heart after 50. This isn't theory. This is battle-tested knowledge from 2 decades on the front lines of cardiac medicine. Let me start with Richard, a 56-year-old investment banker I met 3 years ago. Richard did everything right, or so he thought. He exercised 5 days a week, ate a relatively clean diet, took his statin religiously every single night, and had his cholesterol checked annually. His LDL cholesterol numbers looked good on paper. His doctor was pleased. Richard felt invincible. Then one Tuesday morning, while preparing for a major presentation, his chest exploded with pain. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was barely conscious. In the emergency room, we discovered a massive blockage in his left anterior descending artery. We call it the Widowmaker. He needed emergency surgery, and honestly, he was lucky to survive. Here's what nobody tells you. Richard's statin was working. His cholesterol was lower. But he was making 3 critical errors that undermined everything that medication was trying to do. First, he was taking a specific type of statin that should never be taken at night, yet that's exactly when he took it for 10 years. Second, he was drinking grapefruit juice every morning, which was interfering with how his body processed the drug. And third, he had started taking a common supplement for joint pain that was secretly increasing his cardiac risk despite the statin's protection. Richard survived, but thousands don't. And the tragedy is that all of it was completely preventable with the right information. The statin class of medications includes drugs you probably recognize: atorvastatin, also called Lipitor; rosuvastatin, known as Crestor; simvastatin or Zocor; pravastatin, Livalo, and others. They work by blocking an enzyme in your liver that produces cholesterol, and they're remarkably effective when used correctly. The problem is that most people, including many physicians, don't understand that these medications are not interchangeable. They have different properties, different half-lives, different interactions, and different optimal timing. Treating them all the same is the first massive mistake. Let's talk about mistake number 1, and this is perhaps the most common error I see. Taking your statin at the wrong time of day. You've probably heard you should take statins at bedtime. That's become the universal advice. Take it before you sleep. But here's what that guidance misses. That recommendation only applies to certain statins, specifically the short-acting ones like simvastatin and pravastatin. Why? Because your body produces most of its cholesterol at night while you sleep. These short-acting statins need to be in your system during those peak production hours to be effective. If you take them in the morning, they've worn off by the time your liver kicks into high gear. But here's the critical distinction. Long-acting statins like atorvastatin and rosuvastatin stay in your system for much longer, up to 30 hours or more. It doesn't matter when you take them. Morning, afternoon, evening, the timing is irrelevant because they provide consistent 24-hour coverage. Yet I've met countless patients taking Lipitor at bedtime because that's what they were told, and they struggle with it. They forget. They wake up at 2 in the morning realizing they didn't take it. They stress about consistency. And that stress, that inconsistency, that's creating its own problems. The research is clear on this. A study published in the American Journal of Cardiology found that adherence rates, meaning how consistently people actually take their medication, are significantly higher when patients take long-acting statins at a time that fits naturally into their daily routine. For busy professionals, for entrepreneurs managing complex schedules, taking your atorvastatin or rosuvastatin with breakfast is often far more reliable than trying to remember it at bedtime. The best statin is the one you actually take consistently. If bedtime doesn't work for your schedule and you're on a long-acting statin, there's absolutely no medical reason to force it. But here's what makes this even more important. Inconsistency with statins doesn't just mean you miss a dose. Every time you skip or delay your statin, your cholesterol production rebounds. Your liver starts pumping out cholesterol again. Then, when you finally take the next dose, you're playing catch-up. This creates a roller coaster effect in your bloodstream, and that instability, that fluctuation, can actually be worse for your arteries than never taking the medication at all. Stable, consistent levels are what protect you. Erratic levels create inflammation and vulnerability. This brings us to mistake number 2, and this one is absolutely crucial for anyone over 50. Not monitoring the right markers. Most people think statins are all about cholesterol. Lower your LDL, raise your HDL, keep your total cholesterol under 200, and you're golden. But that outdated approach is missing half the picture, and it's costing lives. Let me tell you about Patricia, a 53-year-old management consultant who came to see me after her annual physical. Her doctor had put her on a statin 2 years earlier. Her LDL cholesterol had dropped beautifully from 160 to 90. Everyone celebrated. But Patricia felt terrible. She was exhausted all the time. Her muscles ached constantly, and her mental clarity had disappeared. She told me she felt like she was aging 10 years overnight. I ordered a comprehensive panel, not just the basic cholesterol test. What we found shocked both of us. Her CoQ10 levels had plummeted. Her liver enzymes were elevated. Her fasting glucose had crept into pre-diabetic range. And her inflammatory markers, specifically high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, were through the roof. Patricia's cholesterol numbers looked perfect, but her body was being destroyed from the inside out. The statin was working on cholesterol, but it was creating a cascade of other problems that nobody was monitoring. This is the dark side of statins that few doctors discuss openly. These medications can deplete critical nutrients. They can affect your liver. They can interfere with blood sugar regulation. And if you're not tracking these markers, you're flying blind. Here's what you need to understand. Statins block the same pathway that produces coenzyme Q10, an absolutely essential molecule for energy production in every cell of your body, especially your heart muscle. When CoQ10 drops, you feel it. The fatigue is real. The muscle pain is real. The brain fog is real. But here's the critical point. This is preventable. If you're taking a statin, especially a high-dose one like atorvastatin 40 milligrams or rosuvastatin 20 milligrams, you should be supplementing with CoQ10. The research supports 100 to 200 milligrams daily of ubiquinol, the active form. This isn't optional. This is essential protection for your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells. Beyond CoQ10, you need to monitor your liver function every 6 months, especially in the first year of statin therapy. Statins are processed by your liver, and in some people, they can cause enzyme elevations that signal stress or damage. Most of the time, this is mild and reversible, but occasionally it's serious. Your doctor should be checking ALT and AST levels regularly. You also need to watch your fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C. Multiple studies have shown that statins can slightly increase diabetes risk, particularly in people who are already at the borderline. If you're watching your cholesterol but ignoring your blood sugar, you might be trading one problem for another. And here's something that will surprise you. Inflammation matters more than cholesterol alone. I've seen patients with LDL of 120 who have pristine, healthy arteries, and I've seen patients with LDL of 80 who have severe blockages. The difference? Inflammation. Your high-sensitivity CRP, or hs-CRP, tells you whether your arteries are inflamed and vulnerable to plaque formation. A truly protective statin protocol doesn't just lower cholesterol, it reduces inflammation. That's why combining your statin with anti-inflammatory lifestyle strategies, omega-3 fatty acids, regular exercise, and stress management is non-negotiable. The pill alone is not enough. Before I continue with the remaining mistakes, I want to pause for just a moment. If what you've heard so far has been valuable, if you're realizing you might be making some of these errors yourself, I'm going to ask you for two things. First, subscribe to this channel. My entire mission is to give you the information that standard medical appointments don't have time to cover. Information that could genuinely save your life or the life of someone you love. Second, share this video. Think about your colleagues, your friends, your family members who are taking statins. A simple share could start a conversation that changes everything for them. Thank you for being here, and let's continue. Mistake number 3 is perhaps the most dangerous because it's invisible until it's too late. Ignoring drug and supplement interactions. Statins are powerful medications, and they don't exist in isolation in your body. They interact with dozens of other substances, some in ways that reduce their effectiveness, others in ways that increase your risk of serious side effects. I treated a 62-year-old entrepreneur named David, who learned this the hard way. David was taking atorvastatin for his cholesterol, amlodipine for his blood pressure, and he'd recently started taking red yeast rice extract because a friend told him it was a natural way to further boost his heart health. Within 3 weeks, David's muscles started breaking down. He developed rhabdomyolysis, a life-threatening condition where muscle tissue disintegrates and releases toxic proteins into his bloodstream. His kidneys began to fail. He ended up in intensive care. What happened to David? Red yeast rice naturally contains a compound nearly identical to simvastatin, another statin medication. He was essentially double dosing on statins without realizing it, and his body couldn't handle it. This is more common than you think. People assume that because something is natural or sold over the counter, it's safe to combine with their prescriptions. But the reality is far more complex. Certain supplements, certain foods, even certain medications for completely unrelated conditions can dangerously amplify statin effects or create new risks. Let me give you the most common culprits. Grapefruit and grapefruit juice can interfere with how your body breaks down certain statins, particularly atorvastatin and simvastatin. Even a single glass can increase blood levels of these drugs dramatically, raising your risk of muscle problems and liver damage. If you're on one of these statins, you need to avoid grapefruit entirely. It's not worth the risk. Certain antibiotics, particularly erythromycin and clarithromycin, can also increase statin levels dangerously. If your doctor prescribes an antibiotic while you're on a statin, ask specifically about interactions. Fibrates, another class of cholesterol medications, can be combined with statins, but only under close medical supervision because the combination increases muscle breakdown risk significantly. And here's one that catches people off guard. St. John's wort, a popular supplement for mood support, actually decreases statin effectiveness by speeding up how quickly your body eliminates the drug. You think you're protected, but the medication isn't working properly. Mistake number 4 is one that frustrates me endlessly because it represents a fundamental misunderstanding of how statins actually work. Taking a statin while ignoring your diet and lifestyle. I cannot tell you how many times I've had this conversation in my office. A patient comes in, their cholesterol is elevated, I prescribe a statin, and they leave thinking the medication is their solution. They continue eating the same processed foods, skipping exercise, managing stress poorly, sleeping 5 hours a night, and then wonder why they still develop heart disease despite taking their pill every day. The statin is a tool, not a magic bullet. It's one piece of a comprehensive strategy, and if you're not addressing the foundation, you're building on sand. Here's the truth that the pharmaceutical industry doesn't emphasize. Lifestyle modifications can be as effective as moderate-dose statins for many people. The Finnish diabetes prevention study showed that intensive lifestyle intervention reduced cardiovascular events by nearly 60% in high-risk individuals. That's comparable to what we see with statin therapy. But here's the key insight. When you combine an optimized lifestyle with appropriate statin therapy, the benefits multiply. You're not just adding 1 + 1 to get 2. You're creating a synergistic effect, where 1 + 1 equals 4 or 5. Your statin works better when your body is metabolically healthy. Your inflammation drops further when you're exercising regularly. Your arterial health improves dramatically when you're eating anti-inflammatory foods and managing stress effectively. Let me be specific about what this means practically. If you're taking a statin but still eating a standard American diet high in refined carbohydrates, sugar, and inflammatory seed oils, you're undermining at least half of that medication's potential benefit. Your liver might be producing less cholesterol because of the statin, but your diet is still driving inflammation, oxidative stress, and insulin resistance. Those factors damage your arteries independent of cholesterol levels. Similarly, if you're sedentary, your HDL cholesterol, the protective kind, stays low regardless of your statin. Exercise is the most powerful HDL elevator we have, and no medication can replicate that effect. The protocol that actually works requires you to think of statins as part of a system, not as a standalone solution. You need to be eating a Mediterranean-style diet rich in olive oil, fatty fish, vegetables, nuts, and whole foods. You need to be moving your body at least 150 minutes per week with a combination of aerobic exercise and resistance training. You need to be prioritizing sleep, 7 to 8 hours consistently, because poor sleep drives inflammation and insulin resistance. You need to be managing chronic stress through whatever methods work for you, whether that's meditation, therapy, time in nature, or meaningful social connection. When you do these things while taking your statin correctly, you're creating an environment where that medication can do its absolute best work. This leads directly to mistake number 5, and this is where personalization becomes critical: taking the wrong statin or the wrong dose for your specific situation. Not all statins are created equal, and not every person responds the same way to the same medication. I've seen patients who do beautifully on atorvastatin but develop severe muscle pain on rosuvastatin. I've seen others who tolerate simvastatin perfectly but can't handle pravastatin. Genetic factors influence how you metabolize these drugs. Your age matters, your kidney function matters, your other medical conditions matter. The idea that one size fits all is medical laziness, and it leads to people either suffering unnecessarily from side effects or not getting adequate protection. Here's what proper personalization looks like. If you're experiencing muscle pain or fatigue on your current statin, the answer is not to suffer through it or give up on statins entirely. The answer is to try a different statin, adjust the dose, or switch to alternate day dosing. Some people do better with lower doses taken more frequently. Others need a different drug in the same class. Atorvastatin, for instance, is a newer statin that tends to have fewer interactions and may be better tolerated by people who struggled with older options. There's also the option of combining a lower-dose statin with ezetimibe, a different medication that blocks cholesterol absorption in your intestines. This combination can achieve the same cholesterol reduction with fewer side effects. Your doctor should be willing to work with you to find the right fit. If they're not, if they dismiss your symptoms or insist you just power through, find someone else. You deserve a physician who treats you as an individual, not a protocol robot. The goal is to get your LDL cholesterol to an appropriate target for your risk level, while maintaining your quality of life and monitoring for any adverse effects. For most people over 50 with cardiovascular risk factors, that target is LDL below 70, ideally below 55 if you've already had a cardiac event. But getting there should not destroy your muscles, your energy, or your liver in the process. Let me end with a success story. Thomas, a 58-year-old executive, came to me after his third cardiologist told him to just accept the muscle pain from his statin. Thomas had a strong family history of heart disease. His father died at 62 from a heart attack, and he knew he needed cholesterol control. But the atorvastatin he was taking made him feel 20 years older. We made 4 changes. We switched him to rosuvastatin at a lower dose. We added CoQ10 supplementation at 200 milligrams daily. We implemented a structured exercise program starting slowly and building gradually. And we cleaned up his diet, eliminating processed foods and focusing on whole, anti-inflammatory nutrition. 6 months later, Thomas's LDL was 62, down from 138. His muscle pain was gone. His energy was back. He told me he felt better at 58 than he did at 45. That's what the right protocol looks like. It's personalized. It's comprehensive. It addresses the whole person, not just the cholesterol number. Today, you've learned the 5 critical mistakes that undermine statin therapy: wrong timing, inadequate monitoring, dangerous interactions, lifestyle neglect, and poor personalization. More importantly, you now know what to do instead. Take your statin at the optimal time for your specific medication. Supplement with CoQ10 and monitor the markers that matter. Avoid dangerous interactions with foods and supplements. Build a foundation of healthy lifestyle habits. And work with your doctor to find the right medication and dose for your unique situation. This is empowerment, not fear. You have the knowledge now to become an active, informed partner in your own cardiovascular health. The next time you see your doctor, go prepared with questions. Ask about CoQ10. Ask about monitoring liver function and inflammation. Ask if you're on the right statin for your genetics and risk profile. These conversations can change everything. Your heart has carried you this far. Give it the protection it deserves. Share this with someone who needs it. And remember, the right protocol doesn't just add years to your life. It adds life to your years. Take care of yourself.